In this video, I will try to reconstruct the whole Windows installation process that was successful yesterday. To get started, open your BIOS settings and search for something that will enable the support for virtual machines. And that is the first thing that you should know, because the installation on a virtual machine like VirtualBox actually doesn't work at this time. Now let's continue with the second part. I need to search for the term Windows features, because there is a possibility to enable or disable those. And what I need to get working is the Windows subsystem for Linux. In this case, it's already activated, so I click on OK. Now let's continue with the next part and search for Windows Store. Open it. And here we want to search for something that is called WSL. That stands for Windows System for Linux or something like that. Actually, it's Windows Subsystem for Linux. And I'm going to download that. It says it's downloaded right away. That might take a while. Now it's finished and I can open it. And there we are. We run into the same problem like yesterday. It says error code WSL service default distro not found, which is not a big problem, because in the Windows Store right beside the Windows Subsystem for Linux, I can find the Ubuntu app that works with this system. So let's click on download. And that might actually take a little bit longer. And one additional error that was shown yesterday is not happening today. Yesterday it also said that DISM.exe was not activated properly. So I went to the Microsoft website, or actually I went to Google and Googled for something like this. And I found a Microsoft site with a DISM command. It looks like it wasn't this one. I guess it might have been this one. There is a DISM.exe command that will work when you open PowerShell as an administrator. Maybe we will need that later in the process. For now, let's go back to the Windows Store. And there it says that Ubuntu was installed and I can open it now. Now it says installing. This may take a few minutes, and it actually will. Or maybe it will fail. No, it worked. So let's input a username and a password. We need to retype the same password, and that was successful. Now we need to have to wait, because it should either come up with a prompt or it should say that some components need to be installed. There we are. I can now do something like updating the system. To do that, I start with sudo apt-get update. Now it downloads the repository sources. And afterwards I do sudo apt-get upgrade. That will download some additional files. And afterwards we should have an up-to-date system. There we are. Now let's check which version of Python we have installed. Here it's 3.10. So now let's type sudo apt install python 3.10 -fenf for the virtual environment. Yes, I want to continue. Now I can create a virtual environment by typing in python 3 -m fenf, which stands for create a virtual environment called fenf. Now we want to activate it by typing in source fenf bin activate. And when you press enter, you should see the name of your virtual environment in front of the prompt here. Now let's log in for the Mojo installation command. And now the installation starts. This might take a little while. Now comes the critical part. It says type in modular install Mojo. So let's do that. And here you need to be patient, because you might see nothing happening for 5 minutes or so. I think I'm going to cut out that part in this video. Okay, now it says that the installation was successful. In former installation attempts, I ran into errors when it was testing things. So it actually works. Now we have to do 3 more things. So we copy and paste each of these lines here. Now that is out of the way. And usually I would try to use it right away. But I learned that it is a good idea to reboot the system. Actually, this isn't a real Linux, but an app that runs Linux. But this command should still work. No, permission denied. Let's add sudo. And now it's shut down. So let's restart it. I would like to reactivate my virtual environment for Python. Now let's check out the Mojo version. And it says we have version 0.3.1. So that is working. Now comes the next part, where we want to install Visual Studio Code. And we want this one. So let's select that and click on install. Guess what? It's going to be installed and we need to wait for a few more minutes. Currently we have already spent 35 of them to install Mojo. And once the installation process is finished, you can click on Visual Studio Code in your start menu. We want to click on extensions. And I like to install the official Mojo language support here. That comes from Modular. So let's click on install. And it says you have Windows Subsystem for Linux installed on your system. Do you want to install the recommended WSL extension from Microsoft? And I say, yes, I want that. Here it is. Now let's repeat the process for the Mojo language support. This is also installed. And the next thing that I have installed yesterday was the Jupyter support from Microsoft. Now let's install that one. There we are. Now let's try something out. I will close Visual Studio Code, go to the Ubuntu app where we have installed Mojo and type in code and a dot. And no, it didn't work. So let's shut down the Ubuntu app one more time. Now I will try to start Visual Studio Code and create a new file. I will call this test.mojo. Now let's wait for the app to restart. I will reactivate the virtual environment and retry code and a dot. And now something else happens. It says we have an exec format error for whatever reason. Now let's try to create a new file. I will call mine test.mojo, and there we are. This is the second pop-up that says the Mojo development environment was not found. If the Mojo SDK is installed, please set the modular home, blah blah, and I will install it now. Once again, I need to log in. Now let's create a function here. I want to print out hello Windows install, save the file, click on this little arrow here and run the debug Mojo file function. And again, I need to install the Mojo SDK as it says. So something is wrong with the connection to the Ubuntu installation. Let's try to uninstall and reinstall the WSL version. And I will also copy this DISM command, run a Windows PowerShell in administrative mode, paste the command here. Now it's downloading something, and I guess I have to restart Windows. Let's try code and the dot without the virtual environment. And once again it starts to download something that may be required for something else. And this time actually and finally after about almost an hour, I can start Visual Studio Code from this Ubuntu WSL application. I can open my test.mojo file here. And this time I can say I want to install the extension in WSL for Ubuntu. So let's do that. And now I have a proper syntax highlighting here. So let's try to run this file by using debug Mojo file experimental. And finally I get my hello Ubuntu message here. Now let's change the text and rerun the file. And you see it prints out hello, longest installation process in the world. So finally it actually works. So that's it for this video. I say thank you for watching it and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.